Are you an adventurer looking to take your hunt to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the East Meets West Hunt podcast presented by Onyx. The Onyx Hunt App takes your mobile phone and turns it into a mobile GPS, turns your smartphone into a GPS that you can use online or offline to view topographical maps, aerial maps, or with their hybrid layer, you can overlay the two and be able to view that. But one of the coolest features within Onyx is their offline feature. So if you're going to a remote place like I am soon in Alaska, or on an elk hunt in the West, or even most of the places that I personally hunt, whitetail hunting, I don't get cell phone service. And you're able to download the map areas ahead of time through the offline feature and be able to use your phone, even if it's on airplane mode, no cell service, anything. You're able to use that as a working GPS. And it's an incredible feature amongst many that the Onyx Hunt app has available. So if you head over to onyxmaps.com, you can learn more. And if you want to save 20% off of the Hunt app, use the coupon code EMW. The University of Elk Hunting. So Corey Jacobson, who just happens to be a guest on today's episode, and Elk 101 have put together the most fully comprehensive elk hunting learning course available. They have 17 different modules going through from the beginning planning phases through your gear, fitness, learning how to elk hunt, learning elk behavior, learning how to call, learning how to pack out the animal, everything in between. It's all in one place. You don't need to go scouring the internet for things. Everything's in one spot. So head over to elk101.com, check out the University of Elk Hunting, and use the coupon code eastmeetswest to save yourself 20% off of a 1-year membership to the online course. Tethered has come out with the lightest weight, safest, and most innovative hunting gear for saddle hunting in the market today. So one of the coolest things about Tethered in general is the fact that they're more about wanting to have people learn about saddle hunting and try it than they are about selling their gear. And you'll see that through their website. They have so many resources to learn about saddle hunting, and which is where I learned about it myself and was able to use a saddle last year and just really enjoy that process. And their gear is second to none. So if you want to learn a little bit more about saddle hunting and maybe dabble into trying it yourself, head over to tetherednation.com to check that. And last but not least, so friends over at Exodus has something really cool to be able to share with everybody. So last year I talked about they launched their Velvet Fest campaign. So if you're not familiar with hashtag Velvet Fest, it's the official start to deer season, and Exodus helps get the ball rolling for everyone's summer scouting. So once that hits, that means that it's time to get the cameras ready and deployed. So from July 31st, so that was last Friday, all the way through August 21st, they're giving away amazing prizes for anyone that uses the hashtag Velvet Fest on social media to share their whitetail adventures. So, and also, if you're interested in a trail camera, that'll also be the perfect opportunity to get ready for the season. Every single camera order comes with a random prize card that you'll have to scratch off to reveal the prize. And I'm being told there's some monster deals that's with it. And also, each week they'll have a special offer with a grand prize. So a teaser to that would be week 1 is the 2021 October archery hunt with a friend of mine, Steve Shirt Guide Service. Week 2 is a shoulder mount from Urine Taxidermy. Week 3 is a September archery hunt for this upcoming season with Wicked Obsession in Kentucky, and a shoulder mount from the national award-winning studio Full Draw Taxidermy. So for any order on the website during this designated week, you'll be automatically entered to purchase for the grand prize. So there's a lot in this campaign. So if you just want to head over to the website and make sure that you're on their newsletter, just enter your email in there. You'll learn a lot more. So if you're not familiar with Exodus, which if you listen to this podcast before, I'm sure you are, but over the last 5 years, Exodus just keeps showing their build quality of trail cameras that just work. And they have the best warranty in the market right now, with every single camera being backed by a 5-year warranty, and even comes with theft and damage coverage. So it's 5 years that you get to be covered by their warranty. And so if the cameras, I haven't had any issues with warranty other than a bear destroying my camera, which they replaced it at half cost. But other than that, everything's been great. And so be sure to take part of the hashtag Velvet Fest celebration, and be sure to tag myself in it, because I want to see what everyone's up to this summer in their scouting tactics. Okay, so on this episode, I'm joined by Corey Jacobson, and we're going to talk all about elk hunting, of course. So Corey's been on the podcast before. He's definitely no stranger to it. But this episode's even more different than some of the past ones. We dive into some new things, go through some stories with him, have him break down those stories to see, what he did, why he did it. And I really think there's some valuable information in this. And just to give you a heads up, for the intro here, I guess I should have said this at the beginning, but for this intro here, I'm recording this after midnight as the day it releases. So if you're listening to it on the first day, then I just recorded this a few hours ago. Extremely tired, and just got to make sure I get this episode out here. Getting a lot of stuff prepped for the Alaskan hunt, and just working around the house and doing a whole bunch of stuff, staying busy as usual. But yeah, so anyways, apologize for that, but I hope that you enjoy this episode with Corey, and if you do like it, head over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to it and leave a rating and review. That helps out a ton, so it's greatly appreciated. So enjoy this episode with Corey Jacobson. Okay, we're live. I have on the line a good friend of mine and longtime podcast guest here. He's been on a bunch of times, but it's been about a year since we've talked on the phone, and that's Corey Jacobson. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And I, when you said it's been about a year, I thought, no, there's no way, but it must be because elk season is coming up quickly.
Yes, elk season is coming up. And hopefully everyone's, getting prepared for it, because the summer's flying by. I don't know about you, but it's creeping up, a lot faster, it seems.
Totally. Yeah. It seemed like time started standing still in March and April. And I thought, man, we're never going to get out of this season. And now we can't hit the brakes hard enough to slow it down. It's going to be here, and here it comes.
Yeah, I know. That was the exact same thing. It felt like in March and April being, we were joking about before this, stuck at home, but not really. We were, still able to do a lot of things, through that stuff, since we love being able to do things outside and everything. But before we dive into this, Corey, you've been on before, but I'd like you to give just a brief background on yourself and, why I'm talking to you here.
Yeah, no, I just, my background is in engineering, and I worked in that field for about 10 years and realized that, my whole life had been spent outdoors, and being stuck in a cubicle just wasn't there was a void for sure. And so I knew I wanted to get something outside of that. So I started in construction, and that just kind of became a stepping stone that allowed me to have the freedom to be able to start progressing towards something in the outdoors. And I really had no direction there necessarily, but it led me to start a website called elk101.com. And through that, just a lot of growth and progression over the last 11 or 12 years. And currently still run elk101.com. The University of Elk Hunting online course is a part of that. And then, we really just focus on elk hunting related content that's kind of centered around education and entertainment. So that's what I do kind of in a nutshell from day to day is I get to think about elk hunting 365 days a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you probably did that before, but now you get to do it and get paid.
Well, yeah, that's the good side. The negative side is now it's a real job. So, I'm kind of locked into some of those things that come along with it, and certainly not complaining. But there's, you look at it from the outside and it's like, oh, that's, you're living the dream. And I am, don't get me wrong. I fully realize that. But I think anytime you attach, your livelihood to it, it definitely brings an element that is work-like, and it's not always. Some days it's not as dreamy as others. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's funny when I started the website and the podcast and everything. I had a few people that were in the industry tell me, just take it easy at first and see if it's not for everybody to turn their passion into into a business. They said, it all depends on the type of person you are, but sometimes it can almost ruin things for you, and other times it definitely exemplifies that. But there's, like with any job, you're going to have the good days and the bad days. So it's interesting to hear that from your side of it too.
Totally. No, and you said it exactly right. There's going to be good days and bad days, and I think the beauty of what I do is there's a lot more good days than bad days, and but it's still work, and that's why not everybody is doing it, and sometimes I think it's probably even more work. But
yeah,
we're elk hunters, so we're used to getting slapped in the face with brush continually and climbing straight up hills and
over blowdowns.
It just makes it feel like it's another normal day in the elk woods.
That's funny. I just like, I the one thing that I always thought was like I'd see, guys like you and others that are, once the fall comes and you're doing, a ton of hunting, week after week. I think that would be very tough. I mean, it sounds like a dream, but man, elk hunting for a couple weeks is rough on the body and your head and everything else. To do that for, a month or month and a half straight, that's a lot.
It is, and honestly, we don't hunt that much. We hunt a lot, but there's definitely breaks in there, and it's more. I did I think a 12 or 13 day hunt in Colorado several years ago, and I had 3 little kiddos at home, and just after about day 7 or 8, I missed them every day, but after day 7 or 8, it was like, what am I doing here? This isn't fun. It took the fun out of it. And so I got home, I talked to my wife, and we kind of structured it just so that I'll go on a hunt 7 or 8 days, and then I'm home for at least 3 or 4 days, just to unwind, just to, be part of the family, go to sporting events and things like that. And so we do, we try to go on 2 to 3 hunts during the fall. And then pretty much the rest of it is hunting from home with the family and doing that. And it, we definitely string it out a little bit into October and even into November if we can, and make it last a little longer. But there'll be a day, and we'll be able to say, hey, we're going to take 10 or 12 days straight and go hunt here and really immerse ourselves in that hunt. And, where we're at now, sometimes we have 3 of us with tags and we have a 7-day hunt. It puts a little bit of extra pressure on us just trying to fill those tags and have a successful hunt, and feels a little rushed sometimes, but it is what it is. And I think it's the right choice for right now.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And also anyone that's listened to the podcast before has heard your name on every single episode at the beginning. As at the beginning, I talk about the University of Elk Hunting online course, and kind of go through that, and during those, I guess you could call it an advertisement, but I talk about. I break down different modules and talk about different things that you learn from it, and basically going through, what is there, 17 different modules that you have in the entire online course?
I think so, yeah. 50, 54, 55 chapters, something like that.
Yeah, I noticed this year I think it was this year, another one or two were added, or maybe it was last year, but it always seems like there's more content getting added to it. And, it's one of those things from my perspective. Before I, ever knew you, I had, from the first year you launched that course was the first year I was going elk hunting, and I bought a membership to the course, and the way I explain it to people is it's your one-stop shop for learning everything when it comes to elk hunting, to be able to give you that base. I used to spend hours, well, more than hours, just hours and hours on the computer. I was doing it when I was first getting into it, trying to look through forums and do all this stuff to learn it. And it made it a lot easier to be able to follow this, course structure and be able to go through it, and it kind of cut out all of the nonsense that you try to find, that you're trying to sift through on the internet, and be able to have all that information there to be able to help you with your scouting, help you choosing an area, all that stuff, which is really great. I mean, the one thing, Corey, I think that it could add though is having an aspect where you go out and you pick the unit and you pick the spot to go into, but that might be asking for too much.
A platinum membership, I'll pick the unit and do your e-scouting for you. And
yeah, I can't imagine what the price tag on that would be.
I can't imagine how many people it would make mad when I send somebody into the area they hunt.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, through that course, and then through our conversation we had last year, led me to hunting a spot in Idaho, in which that you and I had talked a little bit through email on, but I ended up killing my bull on it was essentially the first morning of the hunt, and it was it just through a few years of experience, and then continually trying to learn more about elk hunting and everything, as able to luck into that. So it was pretty cool to see that work and preparation come together. So I owe a lot of that to you and your help there.
I appreciate that, and that's honestly, I just love to hear stories like that, and it's disheartening to hear the story of somebody that's been hunting for 10 or 11 years and still hasn't filled their tag. And it's impossible to be able to physically go out and hunt with everybody. So I thought, the online course is maybe the next best thing where I can share some of those experiences. And I'm far from being consistently successful at the level that I would want to be, continually working to do that. I'm continually learning. And, I've had a lot of failures in 35 years of bow hunting for elk. And if I'm able to share some of those in a way that help maybe shorten that learning curve for people, so that they're able to share a story like yours, where you went out and you did the work and you invested in yourself and your knowledge, your physical conditioning, all of those things. And, you said you lucked into it, but you earned it. You put in the work and things came together. And that's the way it seems to work most of the time, is if you put in the work, then things do. You seem to luck into more experiences and opportunities like that.
Yeah. And one thing that was funny, and I don't know if I shared this with you at all, but I, based on the course, and one of the things I want to talk about a little bit today, but was through the e-scouting portion, I found this area that had, what looked like the picture perfect spot. And I'm like, I feel like everybody's going to find, this, but it had, a nice meadow. You could see at the bottom, there looked like a little pond there. So you had food and water, and then you had dark timber and a nice saddle that was leading into it. And everything just seemed right. And I got super excited about it. I marked a pin on Onyx and I shared it with my two hunting partners, and I sent it and I labeled it bull down. And I ended up shooting my bull 60 yards from that waypoint.
That is crazy.
That part is luck, but it was it was really, really cool to see that. So
that is funny, and we've had similar experiences last year. I did some e-scouting. It's a unit, I've been in for a long, long time and hunted it, and just thought, I'm going to expand a little bit, always wanting to find that little pocket. And, you have areas where we hunt and the elk disappear at different times, and trying to figure out where they go when they disappear. And through that, I kind of did the same thing. I put a pin and I thought, I've got to hike in here and check it out. And it was like a 3,000 foot vertical climb to get in there. It was about 3 miles, and got in there, and literally where I'd put my pin of where I wanted to check out and maybe hang a trail camera, there were 6 or 8 cows and calves bedded right there. And, I'd put the little pin and elk area to check out, and there were elk right there. So it's kind of cool when it works out like that. It doesn't always, for sure, but I think just with the advancement in technology and e-scouting, it makes it easier once you know what to look for to at least get you in the ballpark that we didn't have 30 years ago.
Yeah, and one thing that I've learned through the e-scouting stuff, and you can almost do, once you get out there and actually hunt them, you can almost do reverse scouting, as I'd like to say. Like, say I'll see where I'm actually seeing the elk at, mark those pins, and then as I'm preparing for the following year, I can kind of look at that and see if there's any correlation with the stuff I was looking for before, different terrain, vegetation, stuff like that, maybe there's some correlation there, and that seems to be, really helpful.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what plans do you have for the 2020 season here?
Man, we've struck out on everything we've applied for. So I'm still holding out hope in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And, got my fingers crossed there. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, though. But we're just going to hunt over the counter here in Idaho, my home state. And we're fortunate that we can just buy a tag and go and hunt. And then we're going to do the same thing in Oregon, just over the counter. Over there, we're going to hunt for Roosevelt elk, which this will be our third year in a row to hunt there. And we've got a... we went into it last year saying we had a chip on our shoulder. I'm not going to say that this year. I think we've been served humble pie 2 years in a row, and we're going to go into it a little more humble this year, and hopefully that'll change our luck.
Yeah. So you'll be going to, you said Idaho and then Oregon. Are you hunting any other states over the counter?
I'm not. So we did a giveaway. We gave away an elk hunt in Utah. And so I'll be accompanying the winner from that in Utah at the end of the month, the end of September. And then we do the hunt of a lifetime hunt that we've done the last couple of years. We're doing that with Outfitters for Hope this year here in Idaho. That'll be the first week of October. So between the two hunts, for me in Idaho and Oregon, and then the hunt winter hunt, and then the Outfitters for Hope hunt, and then hunting with my 3 kiddos pretty much every other spare minute. I'll be spending plenty of time out in the elk woods for sure.
Yeah, that what's crazy to me, speaking of Idaho, is the fact that they sold out so early their over the counter tags. I wasn't planning on hunting Idaho this year, but man, that last year I didn't buy my tag until July, and that would have been too late.
Yeah, and honestly, so in Idaho, it used to be a really cool thing. Any non-resident tags, there's a non-resident quota that's set aside, basically. And for several years, I want to say 10, 12, 15 years, that quota was never met. They never sold all of those non-resident tags. So they allowed residents to buy a second non-resident tag, or a second tag. You just had to pay the non-resident price. So we could hunt our home state and buy our first tag for $36 or whatever, and then just pay the non-resident price and end up with a second tag. So we could hunt, the same unit, same hunt with 2 tags and shoot 2 bulls, on the same day if we wanted. We could get a tag for archery for one zone and another one for a completely different zone, and basically go on 2 separate hunts. We could get a tag for archery in one zone and rifle, on the other side of the state. And it almost became like a fallback that if we didn't draw anything anywhere else, we'd be like, well, we can always get a second tag in Idaho and go hunt over there where we've always wanted to check out. And then about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, they started selling out, but it was in season. Season had already started. As long as you bought your second tag before season started, you were fine. And even during season, there were several times we'd fill our tag and go and be like, yeah, there's still leftover tags. Let's go buy another one. And then a couple of years ago, it was September 15th, somewhere in there, they sold out, and we hadn't filled our first tag yet. Like, man, we don't have that option anymore. And then last year, like you said, it sold out, I think in August 10th or 15th, which was the first time it had sold out before season. And then this year it sold out in what?
June?
May?
Yeah, I think it was mid to early June, if I remember right.
I think it was a day after Oregon results came out. And I think everyone who didn't draw their tag in Oregon jumped on and bought a non-resident tag here. And that was the thing, is residents didn't have the option to purchase one of those leftover tags until after August 1st. So,
yeah, that's pretty incredible. What do you think the reason for that change is?
I don't know. I was talking to somebody this morning, and there's been a lot of change in non-resident opportunity. And for residents, I know last year in Idaho, a lot of residents were complaining about the number of non-resident hunters, which doesn't make sense because they've been capped. It hasn't, the number of non-resident tags has not increased. So it's not like there's more and more coming. But there was definitely a strong push from residents of Idaho to further limit non-residents. And in 2021, non-resident tags, the quota has been decreased and the price has been increased. Colorado's made some changes to a lot of the over-the-counter areas that are now draw only. Wyoming had a bill this spring to decrease the number of non-resident tags and increase the price for non-residents. So there's a pretty strong current going in the direction of limiting non-resident opportunity. And, for somebody that's a resident of an elk state like Idaho or something, and you only hunt Idaho, I can see you maybe looking at it and saying, gosh, I just have to compete with more non-residents. If we limit them, my competition from outside sources won't be able to grow. But when you look at it and think, we're all, non-residents in 49 other states, I like to hunt other states. It's definitely encroaching on our planning, on how we go about structuring and planning our season. So it's, I think that's a lot of it. Just people are realizing, opportunity has already decreased in a lot of states like Colorado, which has always been an open state for over-the-counter, just going and getting a tag. I think people see on the horizon next year, non-resident opportunity is going to be limited in Idaho and the price is going to be higher. So we've been planning it forever. Let's just do it this year. I think there's a handful of things. It's certainly not because anybody shot a 400-inch bull or success rates are at 50% or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of incredible. And like you were saying that, like I was thinking right now, like if I were to, want to go pick up an over-the-counter tag somewhere, there's not that many options.
Yeah, I think Colorado and Oregon are really the only two options. I think Washington does have some over-the-counter, but if you're desperate enough not to say they don't have some good hunting there, but if it's your first time hunt, that is not even on the top 10 list, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, like, last year in Idaho, we got pretty lucky. Like, we didn't have much problems with other hunters, residents or non-residents. We had a pretty good, spot there, but talking to other people, it was, it was opposite, but it's everyone's opinion on what is, bad as far as pressure. And, if you're going to this, big trailhead that's pretty popular, then, maybe there's going to be more people there than others, and like where we hunted, it wasn't a trailhead at all. and it was kind of like in between places, and it just, it made sense from that standpoint, and it, it paid off for us. But, and, I think if I were to hunt, Colorado again, which I'm sure I will, I would take a little bit of that strategy to it, because, my first 3 years there, I was going to, these big trailheads and stuff and wilderness areas and everything, but that's where it seemed like everybody was drawn to, and, ran into a lot more people there than I did in the spots that weren't, I guess, as, didn't pop out at you on a map as much.
Totally. Yeah. And I think we used to say, get a mile off the road and you won't see other hunters. And that's kind of changed. I mean, it really has. People are working harder and trying to find those pockets where the elk are. So you can't just say, get a mile off the road and you'll lose everybody else. I still think if you get a mile off the road, you're going to lose a lot of the people, but it's not 90% anymore.
Yeah.
Now we do have to, kind of look for those little hidden gems of the elk are doing the same thing. If there's a lot of pressure in one area, the elk aren't just going to stay there and wait to get shot. They're going to move to where they feel safe. And I think that's the key anymore to public land, over-the-counter type hunting, is you've just got to find those pockets where the elk are going because they feel safe. And if they're going there because they feel safe, it's probably not going to be an easy place to get to.
Yeah. That's it. What was amazing to me was, in Idaho, where I was at, this was the first time I was hunting a non-wilderness area for elk. So, people are allowed to drive up and down the roads, and you can get more places that way. The day, I think it was the day after I shot my elk, I was sitting at camp, and we were truck camping, so we were down by the road. It was amazing the amount of vehicles that were going up and down the road, just glassing from the truck and, talking to other people. There was, a couple of older gentlemen that pulled in and were basically saying, oh, you're not going to kill them sitting here at camp. They're giving me that spiel. And, but they're like, oh yeah, we don't go after them unless we see them, from the road. And, so there's a lot of that going on, at least specifically in that area. And, it was, as a lot of Idaho is, it was pretty gnarly country there. So once you kind of got off the trail and there wasn't any, hiking trails in there, it was still, you could definitely get away.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good. So with these areas that you're going to here, in 2020, in Idaho and Oregon, are these all areas that you've been to in the past?
They are. Yeah. So Idaho, it's fortunate to be able to hunt your home state, because you learn it and you're able to go back year after year and apply what you learn. But even with that, I'm continually learning new areas within the area. And this year's no different. We're even actually looking at maybe trying to access some of these areas by different methods. We've always been just on foot, but we've got so many motorcycle trails, or there's a lot of logging roads that they gate off that, you can't ride motorized vehicles, but you can take a mountain bike or an e-bike back on. And so we're actually doing a lot of e-scouting this year, kind of searching out some of those areas. Because I think hunting from the road is great. You drive and you get out and you hike up the mountain. But I think hunting off of an e-bike or a motorcycle just extends it that much farther. Now you're limiting the number of people who have a motorcycle. So you can go in 10 miles on a motorcycle and then hike, instead of hiking from a trailhead where everybody has a truck and can get there. So it's a similar concept. It's just using other modes of transportation to extend the reach a little bit.
Yeah, and it's nice on Onyx. You can find those trails as far as like they'll even, when you click on them, it'll even tell you what's allowed, like whether it is just motorcycles or e-bikes, or if it's four-wheelers or side-by-sides up to X amount wide. All that information's right there and available.
Yep.
So that's really nice. And so when you're going into some of these spots, say kind of what from a basic standpoint, what are you looking for from e-scouting here in the summer to really kind of extend these hunts?
Well, so first thing is obviously the trails, and realizing we have access to motorcycles and e-bikes now. So I'm just looking to see what trails are there. There's great websites. I think most states have some kind of a travel map that shows what's allowed where. And so just looking, road closures, just looking to see what dates roads close. And if there's a road that closes on September 1st, that tells me, hey, this area behind here is not accessible anymore, probably doesn't get as much hunting pressure. So we're looking basically starting at that point of trails and roads, seasonal closures, roads that are closed year round, to motorized vehicles, and then motorcycle trails for that option. So a lot of the initial search and e-scouting is based off of those access points. From there, we're just basically looking at expanding into country that looks good in e-scouting. So we're looking for food and water and bedding areas. And really, I just love to spin Google Earth so it's north facing, and then look for those pockets that are north facing. And if I can find a handful of those, a mountain range that runs north-south off the north end of it, there's a bunch of little finger ridges that provide little benches and everything. I get pretty excited to check out.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're doing this e-scouting, are you marking at least this many spots within an area to check out, or do you have any sort of rules or kind of a hunt plan you put together for that?
Yeah, I try to get at least one area for every day that we're going to hunt, as backup areas. So if we're going to plan on hunting 8 days, I want 8 separate areas that we could go into, and basically just have a list of, this one looks the most promising, we're going to go there first. If there's nothing there, day 2, here's where we're going to go. I hate coming back to the truck at the end of the day and not having a plan for the next day, trying to think of, gosh, what should we do tomorrow? And with that being said, though, we've had times where we have done that, and not having a plan in place has turned out to be, we've discovered some pretty awesome areas that we never would have went to otherwise. So trying to take care of a lot of that in the summer, of just exploring new areas and at least having an idea of what to expect when we get there.
Yeah. And when you're looking at, Onyx and Google Earth and everything, areas look smaller than they are. You can find so many, areas that, I remember just looking at it and be like, oh, I can go here this day, or in the morning, go here in the afternoon if no luck. And it's all right, that takes a lot longer than you expect. So
Yep. Yeah, Google Earth, I always say Google Earth is the biggest liar I know.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and you scout it and you're looking, and even when you look, you can see what the elevation is at the trailhead. You can see what the elevation is where you're going, and you think, okay, 1,800 feet in elevation, it's going to be a pretty good grind, but we can do it. And then you get there and realize it's almost a vertical cliff, and it's not just grinding up 1,800 feet. It's actually navigating and finding a possible route. And you can't see. Google Earth doesn't do a real good job of showing you what a cliff looks like.
No. Yeah, that was the same thing, that spot I had marked. It was the first morning of the hunt, so we got up real early to hike up to it, and it was close to 2,500 feet up from the truck, and that sucked, going up through there. And then once we got off this little trail, it was basically a rock chute that went up, and the boulders were a lot bigger than it looked like on the map too, and just trying to figure out how to get through it. And then it was super thick, and it's definitely can be deceptive by looking at it online at times.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. So Corey, what I want to hear is, I want to hear a story of a hunt that you have. I'm sure you got plenty of them, but one where you were looking at it, during the summer, trying to find these areas, and you went in there and, ended up finding the elk, maybe, where you were looking, where you had scouted them out, and just kind of tell a story of a hunt like that.
Yeah, and there, like we talked at the beginning, there are so many where we've put a pin and found elk, or we've e-scouted and found just the perfect spot and went in there and found elk on the first day and shot elk. But I think the one that probably stands out the most in my mind was in Arizona several years ago. And I'd never hunted that part of the unit before. I'd been down there the previous year with a friend who drew a tag and had a great time. There were tons of elk. That's actually why we decided to apply for that unit the next year. But in coming back and deciding to apply for that unit, I started doing some e-scouting and realized that there was a whole nother part of that unit we hadn't even been to or seen that looked just incredible. It's different terrain. Part of the part we were in initially was more of the pinyon juniper stuff with some pine mixed in here and there. And then the part that I was getting excited about was peaks at 8,000 and 9,000 feet and heavy timber and no access. And so in doing all of the e-scouting there, just the normal routine that we do, just really flying over the unit at a high elevation and getting a feel for where these pockets are, where the roads are, where the access points are, and then based on that, where the pockets are that get you a long ways away from it, and just started really finding all these different areas and marking them and doing exactly, what I said as far as prioritizing having several backup areas. But, it's I remember 16-hour drive or something down to Arizona from here. So we didn't have an opportunity to go and do any boots on the ground scouting. We had actually scouted camping spots and got camp set up the first night and left camp and went to spot number 1 and got out of the truck, and just while we were grabbing packs and bows out of the back of the truck, elk started bugling. And it just, it's one of those things that you can go into a brand new area you've never been to before and immediately be hunting elk instead of locating elk. And so that's one that just is probably, it stands out most because it was really the first time I'd really taken e-scouting seriously and spent a bunch of time and marked a bunch of backup spots to go to. And really almost every spot we went to, we were into elk. And it kind of gave me the just that platform. I've got to do more e-scouting. I've got to do this every year and just have spot after spot. And in doing it for the last, 8 years, 9 years, pretty seriously, it just reiterates every year that, man, you can find elk from home without even going to the unit. If you know what you're looking for, and if you put in the time, you can at least really increase your likelihood of being into elk a lot sooner than if you didn't do any of that.
So you mentioned something in there where, there was a lot of the unit was the pinions and junipers with some, pines mixed in, and then you found this area of dark timber. Why do you prefer the areas with more dark timber?
I don't know. And it's, there are guys and gals that hunt the desert states that just love being able to glass from 2 or 3 miles away. First thing in the morning, they glass up a bowl and they say, that's when I want to go and hunt. And they make a plan and go hunt it. I think where I use my bugle to locate elk, I just like to get into areas where I have big ridges I can hike. And I think that's just some of the anticipation and the excitement of calling an elk, is you don't know in the dark timber like that, you don't know what's going to pop out until it pops out and you're at full draw. And, I think that in my mind, and it's probably completely wrong, but the bigger bulls, the more mature bulls that have eluded hunters for years and years, they hide out in that deep, dark timber, and they go back in where nobody else wants to go, and nobody ever lays eyes on them. And of course, the first 5 point that comes in, I'm more than happy to shoot. So most of the time, I don't get a dig deep enough to find that big bull that's hiding back in there. But I don't know. There's an allure to that timber where you don't see the elk until it's right there stepping out and you've called it in.
I think, a lot of the guys and girls listening from, the East that hunt whitetails can relate to that. I know with, me hunting big timber whitetails, like the biggest bucks are living in areas that they have thick cover around, and you're going back in some of these nasty spots. And that doesn't always mean far from the roads, but, having that thick timber that they can hide. I mean, when you can glass them up, that gives more opportunity for people to go after them. rather than in that dark timber, it's a little bit more difficult to locate them unless you're using like a bugle tube, like your style hunting, entails.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, even like in Idaho, where it's a general over-the-counter archery hunt, and then a couple weeks later, they have a general over-the-counter rifle hunt in a lot of the same units. The open country, those bulls that are out in the open during a rifle season are going to get shot. Mm-hmm. And, so in my mind, I think a rifle hunter in that thick timber is going to really struggle when the elk aren't bugling. So I think more elk are bound to survive the rifle season in that kind of country. I think that's where the elk are going to go once they get pressure, whether it's, archery season, rifle season, whatever. They're going to go into, like you said, that deep, dark timber, the thick stuff, where they can literally just hang out and somebody can walk by them 20 yards away and not see them. So I guess that's maybe me jumping the gun a little bit on finding the sanctuaries before they actually have to go to the sanctuaries, and hope there's an elk that's just decided to make that his permanent home.
Yeah, that makes sense though. And where I was at in Idaho, it had a lot more open country than I was used to in Colorado. But where I ended up killing my bull, there was that meadow that was open, but it was up high and it was all dark timber around there, and it was interesting to see that. I mean, I saw multiple bulls that day. The first one that I actually saw that was heading back to bed earlier than the one that I ended up shooting. He was a big 6x6. We got him on video. He came, across and was heading. He skirted the other side of the meadow, not the side we were on. So he was out about 100 yards. It was too far for a shot. And then he went up and bedded on the backside on this north facing, slope. And we were actually waiting for the thermals to settle down to try to go in and call him up out of his bed. When I looked up over the saddle, it was open on the top, and I saw my bull pushing some cows down over, and then they ended up running, right in front of us there. But that was the first place that I was able to, at least a little bit in the lower country, glass a little bit. But like I said, that's where a lot of the people in the vehicles were watching them as well.
Yeah.
So.
And I actually do like to hunt that country like where you were, where you've got an open ridge, and then on the backside is timber. And so the elk come out and feed on the open ridge, and then they drop into the timber to bed down for the day. It's definitely advantageous to be able to spot in the morning at first light and spot the elk out on those open ridges, and then make a game plan to get in and hunt them once they go into the timber. So there's definitely advantages there.
Yeah, it definitely you were able to kind of tell where they were bedding a little bit easier than continuous timber.
Yeah.
So
once they get in that continuous timber, they might go 3 miles in the timber and go past ideal bedding places. But when they're on that open ridge and they drop over, and there's a well-used game trail that goes right down to a bench, especially if you've done your e-scouting, you can really hone in on where they're going to bed and be in there hunting them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So Corey, I was just, as we're sitting here talking, I was thinking of, last year you had your Destination Elk series on YouTube, and the video that seemed to go around like crazy was that bull that was screaming in your face. I want to hear that story from your perspective there, and kind of how you kind of got into that situation, with the first bull and everything there. What did that look like?
Yeah, so that situation, last year Donnie shot his bull on opening day in Idaho. So we had, I think, 9 days planned to hunt. He shot his bull opening day, so that gave me 8 days of just me being the shooter. So I thought, I don't get a chance very often to pass up bulls. And I just, and I still don't pass up very many bulls, but I thought, I'm going to hold out for a mature bull. It doesn't have to be any certain score or anything, just a representative bull for the area we're hunting. And that meant we're able to go and hunt some of those areas where we might be able to find a more mature bull. And so we went on a couple huge hunts and got into some really nice bulls, and just didn't work out. And this bull was probably our number 3 backup area we went to. And he's bugling across the canyon at night. We actually heard him the night before. And we tried going in the next morning, and the wind was just bad. And so we actually went down canyon, drove down canyon, and came in from below, and couldn't hear him bugle and couldn't find him. And so we circled back around that evening and got up in there where we had heard him bugle and worked in quietly and started calling, and he answered. And right before dark, I got my first look at him. He was just really beautiful 6x6. One of those bulls. I said, "Okay, that's a mature bull. He's on the target list now." And we had a plan for the next morning, and realizing that we'd kind of been, every time we'd get close to him and call, he would move out. He kept calling, but he had cows. It was towards the end of the season. He just kept that buffer there, which is really normal. And I thought, what we're going to do is beat him at his own game. We're just going to go in there and get him to talk and then just move in quiet, because he keeps talking. It's just when we talk that he moves away. And so we just went up there thinking, we're going to listen, we're going to move in, and we're just going to let him keep talking, because he's got a bed down. We know that he beds on that hill. And once he beds down, we've got him. And so we did. We got up there that morning, and he was talking, and we slipped down, got the wind just perfect. It was probably 10:30 in the morning by the time we hiked in there and got in on him. So the wind's starting to come up the hill. He bugled from down below us. A couple cows off to our left were talking. So we knew they were there, and we had to be careful. And we started sliding down this little alder patch, and he was probably 150, 200 yards below us. And again, we're not calling at this point. We're just letting him do all the calling, and slipping down through this alder patch. And we got to the point where we had to cross through the alders, and it's just thick and really hard to go through without making noise. And before we even started, the wind switched just enough side hill that the cows that were off to our left got a whiff of us and started crashing down the hill. So whenever that happens, anytime I bust cows or jump cows or anything, I like to just crash right at them, scream out a big bugle, get the bull fired up, and make him think another bull's coming through and harassing the cows. And a lot of times that bull will come in. Well, this time I thought, I'm not even going to bugle, because he's in his place. He feels safe. The cows didn't, they're probably going to run down to him, but they won't chase him out of there. So I used their noise of them busting to break through the alders. And we broke out on the other side, and the bull bugled on his own. And I thought, we've got him. We're in perfect position. We've got the wind. He's riled up because the cows are running, and we haven't even called, so he doesn't even know we're here. And so we slipped up to the edge there, and we had maybe 80 or 90 yards between us and the bull. And he bugled again. And so I'm literally starting to range stuff down below. And all of a sudden, John, the camera guy, said, "Elk, elk, elk, cow, cow, cow." And another cow up where they had winded us from was coming down, coming right through where we're at. So she came by at like 30 yards, stopped broadside at 30 yards, looks down the hill to where the big bull is. And it just couldn't have been any better. I'm thinking that bull's down there, a cow's coming down the hill. We're going to be able to move down towards him, and he's just going to think we're more cows coming down the hill. And about then, John said, "Bull, bull, bull." And there was a bull that was following the cow down the hill, and he did the exact same thing. He came to right down through the trail right by where we were, and I thought at that point, I can pass this bull up and hope to get the bigger bull. Or I've been in a bit of a slump for a couple hunts here, and I'm ready to fill the freezer. And if he stops, in my mind, I said, if he stops broadside at 25 or 30 yards, I can't pass up that shot. And so his bull follows the cow down the hill, stops broadside, I shoot, and he runs maybe 30 or 40 yards and falls over. Meanwhile, the big bull starts screaming down there. The cows all take off with all the chaos, and we hear him follow the cows, and he's bugling up the mountain out of sight and out of ear range. So we go down, we're taking pictures of my bull. We drag it over into the shade. We're getting everything all set up. We're doing a little video interview there. And we literally get the knives out. I have a knife in my hand. We're walking over to start skinning the elk. And Donnie says, "Did you hear that?" I said, "No." And he's like, a branch just broke over there. So we all stop what we're doing and listen. And sure enough, you can hear crunch, 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 crunch. And as luck would have it, that big bull we'd been chasing comes walking back wanting to bed down in his bedding area, which is exactly where the bull I just shot is laying. And so he comes through, just literally just sun in his eyes. It's noon at this point. You can tell he's half asleep, just plodding along, walking right up the hill, right towards us. And he gets to about 8 yards or so. And I'm just standing out in the open. John and Donnie are standing right next to me. Fortunately, Donnie had told John, grab the camera. So John's filming everything. And this bull gets into about 8 yards from us, and he stops and he looks over to his right. And we'd propped my bull up to take pictures of it, kind of tucked the legs up under it. And it looks like it's just bedded right there, just laying there in a bed. And this bull sees it. And I've seen him do it a handful of times on like trail cameras and things where you get 2 or 3 bulls that are right there together. And the dominant bull will hiss. He'll curl his lips and actually hiss, make a hissing sound. And I've seen it a couple times on trail cameras. I've never experienced it, face to face like that. But he sees that bull laying in his bed, and he makes just this dominant pose and starts walking right at us as he lays his head back, curls his lips, and hisses right in my face. And at about 4 yards, I realize things could get really ugly here. He's mad that another bull's in his bedding area. He's half asleep. It's middle of the day. If I don't make a move now, he might come right over the top of me. So I actually kind of jumped at him with the knife, and he ran 10 yards and was so confused. He certainly wasn't expecting us to be there and didn't know what we were. And so he stops broadside at 10 yards and looks at us, and then turns broadside the other way and walks out to 20 yards looking at us before he realizes something's wrong, and he crashes off. But
that is crazy.
That was one of those times when you think, man, could you imagine if I would have had a leftover non-resident tag, a second tag, or if I would have passed up that other bull? Had I passed up that other bull, none of that would have happened. Probably wouldn't have shot a bull at all last season. But yeah, you relive that over and over in your mind. What if I would have been at full draw right there at 4 yards with that bull head laid back like that?
Oh man.
Pretty cool experience. So
yeah, that's an experience that, yeah, you probably won't have that replicated anytime soon.
No, like I said, I've never experienced that personally, and we've had people that they'll comment and be like, "Man, that bull got a big whiff of your scent," or "That bull was just getting ready to bugle," and it actually wasn't. It was literally hissing, and just a display of dominance when they're in close with each other like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, and the story leading up to it too is neat, and that there's a few things you said there that's not something that can really be taught, as far as like with the cows making noise, so then you realize you can make noise. Those are all things that I'm sure through your experience have just led you to do that. That's not something that you can necessarily read in a book as far as a strategy.
Yeah, and it really does come from experiences of messing up so many times that you're working in on a bull as he's bugling, and how many times you look over to your left 30 yards and there's a cow looking at you, and the cow takes off or barks or whatever, and your first natural reaction is throw your hands up in the air. Man, that hunt's messed up, it's over. But when you think about it, the bull he didn't see you. If the bull doesn't see you, he doesn't know what the cow's running from or barking at. And so a lot of times if a cow barks like that, I'll bark right back and, take off at the bull. But if those cows take off running like that, a lot of times if you just take off running right with them and scream a big challenge bugle, that bull hears it. And in his mind, he's thinking there's another bull that snuck in that, is chasing my cows around. He's hearing the cows running. He hears the bull bugle. He's going to come running to the bugle to fight you and run you off. And it happened, in fact, the day before the experience I just described. We had found another mature bull and did that exactly. We just couldn't pull him. He'd come to 80 yards, but he wouldn't come the rest of the way. And we just started following him back over to where he'd been bedded and got on a ridge. And sure enough, there's a cow standing there at 25 or 30 yards, sees us. She busts out of there and takes off running. So I ran right at her and bugled. And having experienced it enough times, I got up to a point where I figured the bull wouldn't be able to see me. He'd have to come up the hill and I could see antlers coming up as he was, 25, 30 yards away, and dropped to my knees and drew back and lifted up just as he turned broadside and went behind a little root wad of a uprooted log, and that turned out to be my demise that day as a bow hunter, because that little stump sticking up there caught the blade of my broadhead and deflected my arrow at 25. I mean, literally, we walked up there and took a picture of it. There's just a slice of the edge of a blade of a broadhead right in it, and that 16th of an inch made the difference.
That's crazy. And I learned a little bit last year through the same experience when I was hunting my bull, and so he was following some cows across this meadow, and the wind was just off. It was in their favor, but it was just for where they were headed, and I was just off to the side, and the wind shifted. I could feel it at the back of my neck, and the cows were walking into that, and the bull wasn't close enough at this point, and one of the cows caught my wind and took off back into the timber, and the bull followed them back in, and I thought, oh man, I just screwed that up. That was my opportunity. And not even 3 minutes later, they all came right back out. Some new cows came down and went back out in that meadow, and that bull got right behind them, came right back out, and then that's when I had my opportunity.
Man,
which I was like, I can't believe that happened that way with him coming out in the exact same spot twice, and at this time, then he stopped broadside at 60 yards, and I was able to shoot, but. It was pretty incredible to see that, and the same thing, I'd relate a lot of the stuff that I've learned, even with whitetails and stuff. Not all the time when you blow out the does or whatever, that it's going to screw up your hunt for the buck that might be, bedded, out a little bit further on the point or down below them, and it's just something that kind of correlates a little bit. Yeah,
and we've had instances before where a young bull will come in ahead of the herd bull, and they'll see us, and we are, whether it's a spike or something, we aren't wanting to shoot them, and they'll just stand there and start barking, and pretty soon the bull will scream a bugle, right up there. So it doesn't always necessarily run them off. As soon as they bark, it's not like it's game over, everything just vacated the area. Sometimes it does, but it's not always. And we've found there's some things you can do a lot of times to settle them back down and make them think that everything's okay.
Yeah, that's incredible. So with these areas that you're hunting this year, are you did you, I know there are areas you've hunted before, but are you running trail cameras or anything in there to kind of know what you're hunting, or do you kind of go into them blind for the most part?
We're running a few, and it's kind of hard in Idaho versus other states, just because we can't use any kind of bait or attractant. And so setting a trail cam, you can set them on game trails and saddles and everything, but it's so, we don't get thousands and thousands of pictures. I know people in other states that they'll come back and check their camera, and there's 1,500 pictures on it, all of elk. And I'll go check some of mine. I'll have 4 pictures on it from 2 months of being out there. So don't put a whole lot of effort or stock in it. And the other thing is, I think you can read sign and tell pretty close how many elk are in an area without a trail camera. We aren't targeting animals. We aren't necessarily looking for the one bull that we want to hunt. So we don't put as much emphasis or energy into trail cameras, but they're still fun, and we definitely go and put them out.
Yeah, no, that's a fair assessment of it there. So the last thing I want to ask you here, Corey, you've had, consistent success over the years of doing this. Is there anything that you think that you do or other successful elk hunters do that, that whether that's a mindset or that's some sort of knowledge, is there any sort of things that will really help people, right now as they're preparing for the season to go into it, that might be able to, help get them that edge a little bit?
Yeah, I really think it comes down to confidence, and just, you said the mindset, and it really is. every time I step into the elk woods, I expect to be successful. And, I'm disappointed way more times than not, but I think it's just that mindset of, I'm confident. Today can be my day, and I'm going to attack it like I'm going to be successful today. And, I'm going to make it happen. And I think being more aggressive than timid, having that mindset of today's the day that I'm going to be confident and going into it confidently. And I think it really comes down to your preparation. And, some of it can be gear. You've got to be confident in your gear for sure. But I think being confident in yourself, whether that's the physical side, whether that's your knowledge of elk, whether that's your ability to execute a successful hunt, all of those things, confidence in what to do in each situation, at least going through 5 or 10 situations that you can think of that might prevent you from being successful, going through those and what you're going to do in those situations, visualizing that success when the bull comes into your calls and he comes into that opening, literally visualize an elk walking through the trees, when you're going to draw on him, how you're going to stop him, how you're going to execute the shot. All those things will increase your confidence. And I really feel that knowledge equals confidence, preparation equals confidence, and in the end, confidence equals success.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's funny, this is episode, I think 141 this will be. And, I've interviewed a lot of people, whether that's hunting elk or whitetails or anything else. And all the ones that are consistently successful say that about confidence. And you have to have the confidence going into it and knowing that. And I mean, I'm a huge believer in mindset in general and anything in life. And I know you're big into reading books and so am I, which actually I do a lot more audio book listening now, but,
yep.
but still, that's, I think in any aspect of life, that's huge.
Definitely. Yep. You have to put yourself in that position, with your preparation to gain that confidence. And then also through experience, it definitely, you can be confident your first time out without ever having experienced elk hunting before. But as you start to see things unfold and you start to be able to react to them, that just increases your confidence even more. And I think when you get to that point, you can realistically step out every time and expect to be successful. And, that's where mindset comes in again, because you're going to fail 7 times before you have any success, if you go off of averages. But you've got to be prepared mentally to not only absorb those failures, but learn from them and not let them beat you up and get you down.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. So, Corey, is there anything else that you can think of that you want to leave the listeners with here? We're hitting the hour mark here, so I'm thinking of wrapping this one up. But just anything else that you can think of or want to leave everyone with here?
No, not really. I think, just overall that, especially your audience where it's more maybe somebody who hasn't had the chance to experience elk hunting and maybe it's on the bucket list and, they're thinking someday I'm going to do that. I think it's just so important to make a plan and execute on that and don't wait. We've talked a little bit earlier that non-resident hunting opportunities are starting to, I wouldn't say dry up, but they're becoming more and more difficult. And we're living in just the good old days right now of elk hunting with the things like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has done to really increase habitat and access and conserve elk. Now's the time to do it. So if it's on your bucket list or it's something you've been thinking about, make a plan and execute on that plan and make it happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was the best decision that I'd ever made, was to just do it and go for it. And, I may have not been as prepared as I needed to be going into it my first time, but by doing it, it's not going to be your last time, I promise.
That's in the online course. I say that it's going to take a lot of work and, saving up. We talk about the cost, what it's going to cost you to go on it and what the expenses are. And then at the end, the disclaimer of, if you think this is going to be a one-time trip, you might want to plan ahead because I know very few people that come out west elk hunting that don't make multiple return trips.
And I always, when someone says to me, "Oh, elk hunting is a bucket list item," I almost kind of come back with, I don't really consider it a bucket list item because it's something that you're going to want to do more. I think of a bucket list thing, I think of something I want to do once, where this is like, I want to hunt elk all the time.
Yep. This is a lifestyle now. It's not a bucket list thing.
Yeah. It's a year long, it's become an entire lifestyle for it, and, for the better in every aspect. And, you and I did a podcast. One of the ones we did is, about a year and a half ago now, that was, you can go back and look for it, anyone listening, but it's called, planning a DIY elk hunt. And Corey breaks down a lot more of the whole planning and the budgeting phase of it and everything there. And then to go even deeper, the University of Elk Hunting online course breaks it down with numbers and everything there to be able to help you plan for it. And, once you have, the gear and stuff for it, it just becomes really gas and tags after that.
Yeah, it's not as expensive, especially with over-the-counter do-it-yourself options. I think, once you realize what states have availability of those tags and dive in and say, I'm going to do it, this is where I'm going to go, I think it'd surprise a lot of people how relatively inexpensive it is to have that kind of an experience. Yep,
couldn't agree more. So, Corey, where can people find some more information on you, some of the stuff we talked about here, and University of Elk Hunting online course?
Yeah, just elk101.com is our website, and we've got all sorts of content there, articles, different things. That's where you can also sign up for the online course or learn more about it. And then our YouTube channel, which is just Elk 101 on YouTube. I've got a lot of content there, some educational, some entertainment, and then social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Elk 101 on both of those.
Awesome. And for anyone listening, the University of Elk Hunting online course, you'll hear it at the beginning, but just a reminder, if you use the coupon code eastmeetswest, you'll save yourself 20% off of the course. So little deal there to help you check it out.
Definitely.
Well, Corey, thank you for coming on again. I really appreciate you, taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me here and help everyone out. So once again, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me to be on. And I think this time of year, it just becomes easier and easier to talk about elk hunting, and so let's make it through the next few weeks till we can actually get out and start chasing them.
For sure. Well, good luck to you, Corey.
I appreciate it. You too.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit eastmeetswesthunt.com, Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors, and Instagram at East Meets West Hunt. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.